Welcome to the live Tuesday call. My name's Jeffrey St Laurent, and we're going to rock the topic today, and the topic is creating your first product or creating your first course that you can sell. And there's a lot of different questions around this, a lot of different areas we can go with this. And my hope is that I can kind of narrow it down to simplify it for you. That's the biggest thing, is I want to simplify it for you. So if you're in that place where you want to create your first product that you want to sell, you're not overwhelmed with it, because there are so many directions to go. Before we get rolling with that, I do record all these live calls, and I post them every week on Fridays in my university on my website, sellingcoaching.com. So if you go to sellingcoaching.com, click the university. We're up over 100 calls now, and so we're not stopping there. We're going to keep rolling. So there's a lot of great information there for you as a resource. Additionally, on the homepage of sellingcoaching.com, I have my fantastic resource for you, and that is the Ultimate Startup Guide for New Coaches. It's a really great place to start there as well. And additionally, when you get that, it will also put you in my email community, and I highly recommend being a part of that. Not only to know when my calls are coming, the topics each week, but also it gets a lot of great content in there that it helps you as a coach transition to a full-time business, because that's what I do as your mentor coach. And I am available for one-on-one mentoring for those people who are in a position where maybe you've been going along so far and you're a little frustrated because of a lack of progress, or just don't know what to do, or even more, you don't want to get to that spot. So if that's a consideration of yours, or you just want to learn a little bit more of how I can assist you with that, just go to sellingcoaching.com. There's a work with me page. At the bottom, fill out that form. I will follow up with you directly. I will actually call you, believe it or not, which might be scary, but I will call you. I don't know why, but you'd be scared of that. But I will call you and follow up, and we'll just create a relaxed conversation to see where we can go. And my bottom line is, like I said, I want to help you transition to a full-time business or go down that path, because I know you're passionate about coaching. It's just a matter of how you get there and understand the business aspects of it all. So let's just jump right into the topic today, and that's creating your first product or course to sell. And this is always a great avenue to go down. I've done quite a bit of this over my years, been as a full-time coach since 2004. And a lot of coaches want to create a product because they're like, number one, I want to educate my people. But even bigger than that is from a business aspect, it's if you will, you could call it passive revenue, meaning it's just they buy a course of yours, you get the money, and then they take the course, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. So that's always a great thing to have, and it's just another resource, for additional income and to help your people as well. So there's a lot of different aspects with that, and as we start off with this, as I've gone through this, there's two different areas you can actually go down, right? There's the virtual path, which is like, let's say, a downloadable course, whereas let's say someone purchases something, they could get an automatic email after they purchase it through an autoresponder, and then there's a link in that email where they can click and they can download the course from there. Just like if you have a free offer on your website, like for instance, I shared you mine on sellingcoaching.com, the Ultimate Startup Guide for New Coaches, right there where I, if you will, bribe you for my dog and say, hey, if you enter your name and email address, I'll give you my dog. But it's really for my free offer. And when you do that, I have it set up automatically so that my email platform, Aweber, automatically emails you that initial email, and in that is a link to my free offer. So we deliver the course the same way through a link. That's just an avenue you can go down. So there's the virtual side, and then there's the tangible side, or the physical product. And that, let's say it's a book, and otherwise it might be a CD course, which nowadays CD courses are kind of outdated because no one really buys CDs anymore. So really, if you're talking about more of a tangible product, it would be more of a book. But also, believe it or not, there are other avenues to go down with physical products. There's even print newsletters, print magazines, and even print CD courses. Even though you might think some of these things I'm saying are outdated, there's also, if you think about it from a different perspective, everyone still has a CD player at some point. So, or if a print something that they're going to be getting, a newsletter or a magazine. There's also a higher perceived value to some of those things now than maybe they were before, because it's kind of like a handwritten thank you note. Like, who sends a handwritten thank you note anymore? I actually just sent a couple this week because I believe in that stuff, because it makes a statement. However, it also makes it something so that it's not just, oh, you can't just get it online, and it actually comes to your place. So sometimes, especially nowadays, there could be a lot more perceived value to that and exclusivity to that. So there's different avenues to go down. So where I'm going to start you off with is with the two, physical or virtual, if you will. What situation, how do we narrow it down so you know where to go? And I'll make this very simple for you because, like I said, I want to simplify this whole product thing so you can actually move forward and do it if you're in a position for that. So number one, in general terms, I would only do a physical product if you're doing face-to-face live speaking engagements. If you're not doing live speaking engagements that are face-to-face, to start off with, I would stay away from physical products. In terms of physical products, like what I've done over the years, like I've published my book. I have 4 different physical CD courses. I've got an 8 CD course I've done. I was back in 2005. That was actually my first product that I ever did. My first year out and full time as a business. But then I've done a 3 CD course. I've done a 2 CD course, and I've also done a single CD course. And they were all physical products. Like I had a bunch of copies done. And so and with that, the reason I did those is because I was doing live speaking engagements. And so right now, if you're doing that event, those live face-to-face events, those physical courses are great. And mainly because when I do a live event, I can go to the live event, I can have those courses, or I can have that book or books if you'll write a few down the road, and I can sell those there, which is great. So whether I'm getting paid to do the event or if I'm doing a quick complimentary event, I have those courses available. And if they're relevant to what I'm speaking about, it's a low cost course. So my book I sold for $20. My 8 CD course I sold for $150, which is not higher priced, but higher than the book. And some of the other single or 2 or 3D courses ranged anywhere from, I think, $37 to $97. So not super expensive, but it's a way for people to get to know you a little bit better, to get into more of your advanced education. And more importantly for you, it's a great way to walk away from an event with, let's say, some change, some cash on hand, or it could be several $1,000s in course sales. And I've done events where I've sold many thousands of dollars in courses and books at the end of the event. Obviously, there were more people at those events, but I've also done smaller events. I remember I did a local small event. It was like a mile from my house for Gold Star Mothers. And it was just a last minute thing that they were looking for a speaker to come in. And Gold Star Mothers was, I believe it was a group of moms who have lost a son in the war. And I think I spoke to 20 of them at like a 7 o'clock on like a Tuesday night. And I walked out of there with $800 in sales. Like a lot of them bought my audio course. That was the only thing I had at the time for $150. And I remember walking out of there with like $8 or whatever $100 it was. It was like, wow, that was pretty good. So that's a great way to have some additional income. And then also now you've got people that have your courses, you can follow up with them. So if we're thinking about this first avenue, like, do I go physical or do I do virtual? The only way I'd have you do physical would be if you, starting off at least, is if you're doing live events. And another great aspect to that is typically when we're starting off with our business, we don't have much of an audience, if at all. And you'll hear me say over and over again, if you're a student of mine, is that the number one objective in our business is to build an audience, right? Because even with our one-on-one coaching, like, well, no one's going to hire us if we don't have an audience, right? Especially if we've got a product. Great, you can have a product, but if you know when to sell it to, then like no one's going to buy it. So we got to have that audience. And yeah, of course, people will buy it as, you get more exposure here and there. But the great thing about live events and a physical product is that as you go to the events, number one, you're doing it to get in front of people and build your audience. But then also you have a great, easy, quick way of monetizing that as well because you've got a course or you've got a product that way. So that's a great way, an avenue to go down. So if you're considering that route, and I'm just going to stay down that path right now, is I'm going to start with the first part here, is just going down the physical product route. And then I'll wrap this up and I'll take you down the virtual product route as well. So you get to kind of see both sides. But if you're going down the physical product route, if I was going to start you off, I would highly recommend you start with a book as opposed to, let's say, a print, let's say newsletter, a print magazine type thing, or any type of CD type medium. And I would say a book. And the reason I say a book is because book's going to give you the most credibility right out of the gates. And it's a great marketing tool. I consider it, if you will, the modern day 5-pound business card. And you could do a book tour. You can get people excited about it. And when you got your book, like I have clients right now that are either writing a book or some that have just gotten in their hands over the last few weeks. And it's like what I'm working with them, with my mentoring with them is like, okay, how do we maximize our exposure through this? How do we call up our contacts? Call up even people that you don't know. It's a great way to call people up and say, hey, I just published a book. I'm an author. And I'm excited about it. I'm in the local area and I'm looking to set up local live events because I'm excited to spread the message and the word of my book. And I'm wondering, if this is something that you do, or if this is something that you would consider, or who you might know that might be interested in doing something with me about this, right? It's an easy approach. And even if you don't know the person, at least this is what I did when I did it, was they get excited for you. They're like, oh, you published a book. What's the name of your book? And like, well, what do you do? Tell me more about that. And a cold call, if you will, turns into something exciting because you're a local author, and who isn't excited about that, right? I mean, I'm not saying everyone is going to be like super excited and welcome about that, but I in my experience doing that firsthand, I never had anyone be like, yeah, whatever, and they weren't like on board with at least being at least excited about it for me and saying, honestly, I don't know what we can do, or I don't have any thoughts right now, but congratulations, or you know what, hey, I'd love to get a copy even, and so I made some sales that way as well. That wasn't the intention, but that's the way it works out sometimes. Or I might be happy to be like, I'll tell you what, I'd love to go drop you off a signed copy or a couple signed copies. And then if you don't mind help spreading the word, that would be great, because people want help. They want to help. And even if you go in under that premise of, hey, I'm looking for some help. So there's a lot of great ways to do it. And that's why I recommend a book for all those reasons. And then obviously you can use online exposure, and people get excited about it as, hey, I'm publishing my first book. It's a cool thing to do and to get people's attention. And also to create an approach. And then, like I said, when you do those events, it's a great way to actually, create some different revenue. And it's a great, easy, cheap way for people to get into more in depth of your information. So if I'm doing an event and the book's, $15, $20, even $25, which, yeah, it's expensive for a book that you're going to maybe get on Amazon, but face to face, I'd sell it for $20. Like, people are going to buy it. And you sign the book, and it's a great way to get in with that piece. So that's why I recommend the path that you go down if you're doing those live events. And also, additionally, writing a book, at the end of the day, there's so many online publishing platforms. Is like I would self-publish, and I'm not going to get into all the details around this and recommendations, but in general, you could just go on Google and type, I want to self-publish my book, or self-publishing platforms, and you're going to find plenty of them that are out there. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend going through trying to find a publisher, someone who will publish it for you, because that's just it's a waiting game, and you're sending the manuscript and you're trying to get people to pick it up. It's just like, self-publish the book. Like, the whole point is get the information out there, create the product, and keep the copies low. Like, just get 100 copies. What I did was I published 5,000 copies, and as much as I've gotten that book out there, I still got 2,500 copies in my basement. So it's like, don't go overboard in publishing. That's one of the, if you will, mistakes that I learned of doing too much too soon. But the reality is publish 100 books and use a self-publisher, and now literally you can have a book in a month, and book could be 100, 150 pages, and you've got a nice product. Like, that's a real simple way to go. You can have it professionally done, the self-publishing avenues. It's not super expensive, especially if you're doing a low run of, let's say, 100 copies. It's not going to be cheap, like a couple $100. It might be in the $1,000 or a little bit more dollars, depending on the cost per book, and then whatever artwork you have for it. But within a short amount of time, if you're focused, you can get it done. Now, it depends on how much you're focused. But the point is I did my book. I published it within. The whole process took a good 6 months, but I actually wrote the book in just over a month, and it turned out to be a 400-page book. Now, you don't need to write a 400-page book, and nor did I think or plan to write a 400-page book, but the point is that's what came out 4 weeks later. So the point is you can get it done, and there's a lot of online platforms to do that. So that's the first part I wanted to go over is, okay, downloadable product, virtual or physical. Well, if you're going to do a physical product, make sure you're doing live events. And I would start with a book. and in terms of the specifics around it, like I said, gave you enough to get going with it. That's the path that I would take there. Obviously, you can sell the book online as well. You can sell it through your website. You could sell it through Amazon, and there's obviously other online platforms that you could sell that. Those are probably the two easiest ways to do it. If you put it on online platforms, especially Amazon, I wouldn't be expecting like, oh my God, I'm going to get all these book sales. If you do great, I'd love you to prove me wrong, but the reality is it's going to get up there, and it's only going to get the amount of sales that the exposure that you give it. I personally, as opposed to selling it on Amazon or something like that, I would definitely put it up there, but I would definitely also put it up on your website. Like I have my book that I have for sale on my website at sellingcoaching.com under the products. I also have my CD course there as well. Again, those that are relevant for my audience there. I had some other CD courses, like I mentioned, I don't have up there. They're not really necessarily relevant for my current audience. But either way, like it's a great way to sell it. And then you could just have an online button for checkout. People can purchase it right from there. So you can sell the book online as well. But the reason I don't recommend it if you're doing it virtually, to kind of wrap this section up, is if you're just doing it virtually, yes, you can still get the credibility of having a book and the fact that you're an author. But the thing that I found that is shipping is such a pain. So if you're shipping stuff out, I mean, I don't mind shipping books and things like that, but over the course of time, like shipping goes up. Like to ship a book, if you're doing a flat rate, even media mail, it's $4 or $5 depending on when you're shipping it to. If you're doing a flat rate envelope, because my book's a little bit bigger and thicker, so I typically have to do a flat rate envelope, and that's almost $7 now. So the print cost of the book, and initially for me was like, I think it was like $6. And then over the course of time, if you're shipping the book or you have them shipped there, or depending on if you have storage, depending on how many products you have, things like that, the cost of the book can go up. And that's just the actual cost of the book, never mind shipping on top of that. So that's why I don't recommend doing a physical product if you have to deal with shipping, unless it's a smaller book or a smaller thing like a print newsletter, things like that. Shipping is very minimal on those things. But there is still handling, meaning when they say shipping and handling, now you'll start to understand what handling means is, well, you've got to handle that and you've got to package it and get the address. And at the size of business that you're at, you can pay to have it outsourced, but at that point, that's just going to only add to your costs. So your back end profit, if you will, is very minimal at best on a $20 product. Maybe it's $5, $10 at the most. But at the end of the day, you want to maximize that as well, because it's not like you're going, I'm going to make millions of dollars off of this, but every cent counts. So that's why events is great, because if you go to an event, people buy your book or your course, you give them it, you take the money or you take the credit card information, you charge it, and it's 100% profit from there, minus the initial cost of whatever you paid per book. But now you're not having the extra costs on top of that. So that's the avenue of the physical product and everything around that. Now let's tackle the virtual side, because I know that's obviously relevant for a lot of people. A lot of people doing it on a virtual world right now. It is a virtual world. A lot of people are doing their business virtually and developing a virtual audience. So, and again, there's so many different options you can do with this. But I just want to narrow it down so, again, you can get started. So the easiest way to go down this path of a virtual product would be to have a course that you can I'll go over two different avenues you can do, but one that you can record, and then whether you record it, let's say, on your own, meaning I'm designing it on the back end by myself, creating the content and recording it from there, and I'll go over different options on how you can record it through the different mediums, but I'm recording it on my own, and then I'm packaging it up, and then I'm selling it, and so people can actually buy it. And when they buy it, they'll get an email, and then they can download it from the link in the email. That's one way of creating it. I'll go into some more details, but this is just starting you off. The other way of doing a virtual product, and I've done both of these before, they both work very well. The other way of doing it is you can, let's say you do a 4-week course. And so I'm going to run a 4-week course, and I'm going to run a 4-week course on, and I'll just speak for, like, let's say my own audience, maybe something that I would do. It's, creating your email list. It's on how to create your email list, 4-week course. So if I did something like that, I would come up with a topic and I would focus more on marketing to fill this live course. And let's say my goal, okay, I'm going to get 5 people to do it. And the course for 4 weeks, let's say, is $150. So I'm going to keep the cost pretty low. And let's say I enroll 5 people. So now what happens is The only thing I'm focusing on is beforehand. I'm not developing the course beforehand. I'm developing the course name and basically what it's about and maybe the main points that I'm going to go over, enough to market it and get it out there. And my efforts now are focused rather on getting people to sign up for the course. And let's say I get those, 5 people sign up for the course. Great. Now all I've got to do is plan the content for the first call. And let's say I'm going to do it on a conference call just like this that we're doing. And so what I'm going to do is all I need the content for that first class. Then once I have the first class, I go through that, I record it. And then before the second class, which let's say it's a week later, I've got to create the content from there. And so each week before the class, I create the content. And the advantage of doing it that way is number one, you're getting paid, if you will, to create the course ahead of time. Because essentially what I'm doing is I'm going to do the 4-week class live and I'm going to record it. And with the information that I develop and create in those 4 weeks, I'm going to then package that. And that's going to be my course, my downloadable course that I'm going to sell. So there's no right or wrong way of doing it, but I love this way because now I'm actually getting paid, if you will, to not only deliver it, but develop the course. As opposed to the other way that I just mentioned is I'm going to do it behind the scenes and I'm just going to develop it on my own and then I'm going to sell it. Whereas now I'm going to actually get paid to do it. So I'm getting paid to do it, and also I don't have to develop all the coursework up front. I develop it as it goes, and some people get nervous like, oh my God, I think I have to create it all beforehand. But the reason I wouldn't have you do that is just create enough information to get the title and a little bit of blurbs about it, enough to market it and enroll people in it. And then once you get that going, just create enough content for the first week is you'll start to learn your audience as you go through it. And if you've got 5 people in the course, you can start to see the direction it will take. And what I found is in doing courses like that is typically the course will take its own direction, and the direction I go in is more appropriate because I have live people on there who are actually taking it. So I get the feedback and I get the direction that they're taking it in. They're taking it down based on their needs, and also it could be somewhat interactive, and there could be some live coaching in there, which later on, if that's all recorded, what happens is it can also build a lot more value for what you do as a coach. And I know this because that's the feedback I've gotten, and I've gotten clients from it, not only from people that have taken the course, but also people that have bought the course afterwards. But then obviously you create the course as you go along. So there's a lot of advantages doing it that way. So then, of course, the people that are taking the course, the advantage to having it recorded, and they'll know this, is that if they miss a class or if they're late or whatever, have to leave early, well, they don't miss anything, so it's recorded for them. And then afterwards, you can package the course, and then you can package it for sale, and then you have a course. So that's a great way of doing it. So those are the 2 easiest ways to create a downloadable course. And then from there, in terms of like more of the details of it, I would keep it simple because there's a lot of ways you can do it. But I would keep it simple. With either direction you go down, I would simply do an audio recording. So I would do an audio recording, and typically if you're going to do an audio recording, you would probably plan it out ahead of time. So the first version of me planning it all out on my own and then recording it, well, I'm probably going to be writing stuff down. So I'm probably going to get onto Microsoft Word and I'm going to start doing my outline, and I'm going to start expanding upon that and making my points. And whether I'm going to be, if you will, reading it verbatim as I record it, or I have my points and I read a little bit and then I kind of expand upon that just extemporaneously, like off the top of my head. But I use those points kind of like almost like a PowerPoint that I'm following along. However I choose to do it, that's how I'm recording it from there. And then the other version, if I'm doing that live course that people are going through, same thing. I just do 1 week at a time, but I record it from there. And so when I do that, at the end, I'm going to have the audio, if you will, the audio MP3 recording. And then because I've had to type out notes along the way, whether it was verbatim or it was just notes on that respect, basically from there, I can take that and I can turn that into a handout. And whether it's a handout or notes, or maybe it was a PowerPoint that you used, whatever, you can turn that into a PDF that can accompany the audio portion of it, so they can follow along that way. And then obviously if you want to add to it and have questions or homework assignments or action plans from there, or questions that they have to answer, you could do whatever you want from there, but that's where the course can go. And so with either version, at the end, when it comes to downloading the course, it's very simple. It's an audio MP3, or let's say several of them, and then a PDF that goes with it, or several of them. And so you would basically host that, whoever you have hosting with for your website. And again, I'm not going to go into all the details of that. I'm just giving you the bare bones of it, right? But it would be hosted there, and therefore there would be a link associated with that. So when someone purchases it and they get that initial email, there would be a simply link in there where they would click that link and then they would download it. Or there would be multiple links where they would download the course. And that's the easiest, simplest way of delivery. Being hands-off, having it hosted somewhere. And then also from your end, it's minimal work in the production, because the production of a course, that's where you can have some costs. So imagine, obviously, like with a book, there's obviously production costs of editing and then formatting it and then doing the artwork and then the actual printing of it and then shipping to get the book to you and things like that. And in a virtual or downloadable product, the only type of additional costs would be for you, in this case, they're minimal in the sense that, well, editing the handout, well, you can do that yourself. The only cost you might incur is if, okay, maybe you want to take it to a graphic designer and you want to make it pretty, so to speak. So there might be some costs in that, or maybe you want to have someone proof it. But I mean, other people could proof it, for spelling and grammar and things like that. You can make it look grammatically correct and format it. But then, like I said, the only other cost would be, if you don't do that yourself, is maybe have a graphic designer do it and make it look pretty. Then from an audio portion of it, it's fairly easy. I mean, I've been doing it for a while, so I think it's very easy to do once you learn it. But there's some simple programs, like even the audio editing programs, like even like on a PC, like Windows Movie Maker, you can edit an audio in there, or even for a Mac, iMovie. Like if you take an MP3 file, like an audio file, and drag it into there, you should be able to edit that audio. Like you can at least cut off the ends, where you started the recording. But if it's a live class, for instance, you don't need to edit it because it's a live class. It should be live, so you don't need to edit it, other than maybe snipping off the ends. If it's a recording, that's different because it's a recorded thing. So if you're reading from a course, I just did a course last month, and I had it scripted out pretty well, but I'm reading it, trying to make it as live as possible, so it's not sounding like I'm reading the course and it's engaging. But there are times where you mess up your words and you've got to start over. So obviously there's some editing that has to go in there. But then that's where you could also have someone edit it for you. Just do some simple editing. And there's a great resource, whether you're doing the graphic designer or editing audio. You can go to a place like Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. There's also elance.com. There's other freelance, like guru.com. So they're basically freelance websites, and so you just type in audio editing or graphic designer, etc., and you could find someone on there and just get real specific on what you want them to do. And again, there's going to be all different levels of editing, right? When I did my audio course, I had it professionally done. They edited everything. They did intros. They did music. I mean, you can go as big as you want, but again, as big as you want just costs more money. But at the end of the day, the reality is if you just get a nice clean audio and a nice quiet room and edit out, the parts that you need to edit, in a live class, just snip off the ends and it's a live class, you're good to go. But as long as it's a good clean recording, you're good to go. And now you've got a great course that doesn't have a lot of costs to do. I mean, if you're paying for someone to edit the audio, depending on how long it is, and I would think about it like this. Think about it like maybe $1 a minute for editing. So if it's 60 minutes, it's $60. If it's 2 hours, 120 minutes, it could be $120. Again, it's not like ridiculously expensive. Even if it's 4 hours, it's several $100s, but it's not going to be thousands of dollars. And now you got yourself a nice, clean product that's downloadable, and you're good to go.